Welcome to Vedanta Bhakti Pravachanam. I am Kopela Sai Sri Charan. Let's begin chapter 2 of Sai Satcharitra. In the last chapter, the author mentioned in the original Marathi book that he would state the reason that led him to undertake the work and about the persons qualified to read the same and such other points. Now in this chapter, he starts to tell the same. In the first chapter, I described Sai Baba's miracle of checking and destroying the epidemic of cholera by grinding wheat and throwing the flour. On the outskirts of the village, I heard other miracles of Sai Baba to my great delight. And this delight burst forth into this poetic work. I also thought that the description of these grand miracles of Sai Baba would be interesting and instructive to his devotees and would remove the sins, and so I began to write the sacred life and teachings of Sai Baba. The life of the saint is neither logical nor dialectical. It shows us the truth and great path. Hemadpant thought that he was not a fit person to undertake the work. He said, "When I don't know the life of my intimate friend, nor do I know my own mind, then how can I write the feelings of a saint or describe his life, the nature of incarnations, which even the Vedas were unable to do? One must be a saint himself before he could know other saints. Otherwise, how can I describe their glory? To write the life of a saint is most difficult, though one may as well measure the depth of the water of the seven seas or enclose the sky with cloth trappings. I knew that this was the most venturous undertaking which might expose me to ridicule. I therefore invoked Sai Baba's grace." I could not myself ask Sai Baba to give me permission for this work. So I requested Mr. Madharao Deshpande alias Shama, Baba's most intimate devotee, to speak to him for me. He pleaded for my cause and said to Sai Baba, "This Anna Sahib wants to write your biography. Don't say that you are a poor begging fakir, and there is no necessity to write it. But if you agree and help him, he will write, or rather, your feet will accomplish the work. Without your consent and blessing, nothing can be done successfully." When Baba heard this request, he was moved and blessed me by giving me his udi and placing his bone hand on my head and said, "Let him make a collection of stories and experiences. Keep note and memos. I will help him. He is only an outward instrument. I should write myself my autobiography and satisfy the wishes of my devotees. He should get rid of his ego. Place it at my feet. He who acts like this in life, I will help him the most." Hearing my stories and teachings will create faith in devotees' hearts, and they will easily get self-realization and bliss. Let there be no insistence on establishing one's own view, no attempt to refuse others' opinions, no discussion of pros and cons of any subject. The word discussion put me in the mind of my promise to explain the story of getting the title of Hemadpant, and now I began to relate the same. I was a close friend of Kaka Sahib Dikshit and Nana Sahib Chendorkar. They pressed me to go to Shirdi and have Baba's darshan, and I promised them to do so. But something in the interval turned up, which prevented me from going to Shirdi. The son of a friend of mine at Lonwala fell ill. My friend tried all possible means, physical and spiritual, but the fever would not abate. At length he got his guru to sit by the bedside of his son, but this too was of no avail. Hearing this, I thought, what was the utility of the Guru if he could not save my friend's son? If the Guru can't do anything for us, why should I go to Shirdi at all? Thinking in this way, I postponed my Shirdi trip, but the inevitable must happen, and it happened in my case as follows. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who was a officer, was going on tour to Bassein from Thana. He came to Dadar and was waiting for a train bound to Bassein. In the meanwhile, a Bandra local turned up. He sat in it and came to Bandra and sent for me and took me to task for putting off my Shirdi trip. Nana's argument for my Shirdi trip were conceiving and delightful, and so I decided to start for Shirdi. The same night, I packed up my luggage and started for Shirdi. I planned to go to Dadar and there to catch the train to Manmad, and so I booked myself for Dadar and sat in the train. While the train was to start, a Mohammedan came hastily to my compartment and seeing all my paraphernalia asked me where I was bound to. I told him my plan. Then he suggested that I should straight go to Boribandar and not get down at Dadar. For the Manmad mail did not get down at Dadar at all. If this little miracle or Leela had not happened, I would not have reached Shirdi next day as settled, and many doubts would have assailed me. But that was not to be. As fortune favored me, I reached Shirdi the next day before 9 or 10 am. Mr. Bau Sahib Dikshit or Kaka Sahib Dikshit were waiting for me there. This was in 1910 AD, when there was only one place, Satewada, for loading pilgrim devotees. After alighting from the Tonga, I was anxious to have darshana when the great devotee Tatya Sahib Nulkar returned from the masjid and said that Sai Baba was at the corner of the Wada and that I should first get the preliminary darshan and then after bath see him at leisure. Hearing this, I ran and prostrated before Baba, and then my joy knew no bounds. I found more than what Nana Sahib Chandorkar had told me. All my senses were satisfied, and I got thirst and hunger. The moment I touched Baba's feet, I began a new lease of life. I felt myself much obliged to those who spurred and helped me to get the darshan, and I considered them as my real relatives, and I cannot repay the debt. I only remember them and prostrate before them. The peculiarity of Sai Baba's darshan, as I found it, is that by his darshana, our thoughts were changed. The force of previous action is abated, and gradually non-attachment of dispassion towards worldly objects grew up. It is by the merit of actions in many past births such darshana is got. And if only you see Sai Baba, really all world becomes or assumes the form of Sai Baba. So in the next chapter, we will see how Anna Sahib got his name as Hemadpant.